this was what he heard. Oh, yeah. Sorry, gave me. Thank you. Oh, this is worse. Yeah. This is. Okay, let's start.
Mr. Chair, it's 6:30.
Good evening, everybody. Our chair is running just a couple of minutes late, so he asked that we get started and he'll join us in just a couple of minutes when he arrives. Welcome, everybody, to the second meeting of the Town of Miami Lakes Charter Revision Commission. Thank you all for being here this evening. We'll call a meeting to order and we'll start with
Yes.
a moment of silence.
So Board Member Abad,
Present.
Board Member Fernandez,
Present.
Board Member Bennett,
Here.
Board Member Matos,
Present.
Board Member Ruano,
Present.
Vice Chair Inguanzo.
Present.
Vice Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. My apologies. I skipped that call at order, but we'll go ahead and continue with a moment of silence. Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Officer Amador, do you mind if you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you, Officer Amador. All right, we'll go ahead and begin the meeting with public comments. Madam Clerk, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, as always, welcome. We always have individuals here present in council chambers, and if you're here for public comments, just approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and we will allow 3 minutes. And as well, we welcome public comments that are via remote. We see one participant. I welcome you, sir. And please, again, just approach the podium, stating your name and address for the record. Welcome.
Good evening. Always said, Councilman, I blanked out there. But anyways, thank you very much for what you guys are doing, for your dedication. 3 minutes are up already? Well, that was a quick 3 minutes. Thank you. Angelo Cuadra Garcia, 16441 Northwest 77th Place in the beautiful town of Miami Lakes. Basically, this is my very first time, learning about this event. I knew that it took place back in 2010. Then it was supposed to take place in 2020, but COVID's put us back. So it puts us almost, is that correct? So we had it in 2010, 2016, and then we were supposed to have it. Didn't COVID put us back? So we're on track. Okay, great. So I had it wrong. So basically, this is going to be an interesting learning experience for me. What I would like to share with this body is that I'd like to see, I'm sure there'll be other things that I'd like to share with you, but one of the things that I'd like to share is where, and Ed, please don't take it personal. I love you as much as you love me. So, we love ourselves mutual. Basically what I'd like to see, it happened the other day, and that's why I wanted to share this. A person called me. I tried to reach out to see who was the person in charge. That person in charge, I saw that our manager was out of town. So then it got turned over to basically whoever was. I think it was our public works director. Yeah, he wasn't available. So, and then they turned it over to Danny Angel. So if Danny wouldn't have been available, then it would have gone probably to somebody in another department. That needs to be corrected. I think that we need to look at that. And
You could have just called me.
no, I didn't want to bother you.
100%.
I didn't want to bother you. You said you
You've
said
been
that
called
you were,
when I've been overseas.
what I think it should
24 hours a day.
What I think it should be is if you're taking your vacation, we need to respect it, and then therefore you need to turn it over to your assistant town manager, and then so forth. So basically, whatever it is that needs to be done, look at it, tweak it, and make sure that it needs to be corrected. The other one that I'd like to add is that I personally, and I've heard it from numerous people, from numerous residents, we don't need 2 town managers. 2 town managers are not needed. We're a very small town. I think that we can do well with just 1 town manager and an assistant. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Guess name Stephen Herzberg, Chapter 119. First just want to say I appreciate you guys all being here. This is a very important job that you've been selected, and I think each one of you have been selected because you bring a certain viewpoint that that is valued by the council member that selected you. The only thing I want to also add is, other than thanking you guys, is when you guys get to parts of the charter that are important, that should have some public input, I believe that you should have that as an agenda item on those specific changes. For example, it probably comes up every time, strong mayor, right? Should we go to a strong mayor? It makes sense that when this body makes that decision to vote that down or up, give some notice. So if next week you guys are going to look over the mayor section of the charter, I think it's appropriate to discuss it, but it's more appropriate to say, are we going to have a vote on whether or not we should change to a strong mayor, and do that the following week to allow residents, us staff, to give input on that issue directly. That doesn't have to be for every issue. There's a lot of ideas I have that I've shared with Ed, and I can share with you all. But I think when you're looking at some major changes, just give everybody, especially the residents, an opportunity to look at that and speak and give their input at the next meeting. That's the only critique I have. I know you guys will do a good job. I look forward to watching the meetings. I'll come when I can, or else I'll watch them online. And I wish you all good luck, and thank you again for contributing.
Good evening, George Arena. I'm also exempt under Chapter 119. I basically have 3 things that I'd like to bring up, and I'm just going to say all 3 and then come back and give some additional information, depending on how much time I have. My first item would be the makeup of the council. I think that the council should be reduced to 5 members, the mayor plus 4 councilmen. Okay, and I'll get more input on that after I finish. My next comment is, kind of stole my thunder a little bit, is to go with a strong mayor form of government in this town. And again, I'll give input on that. And my last item has to do with evaluations. This topic came up during the budget hearings, and I think that this should be codified in the charter, that every single employee of this town that draws a salary of any kind, doesn't matter if it's a buck, should have an annual evaluation, and not just a one-sheet little rinky-dinky little item. I'm talking about a comprehensive evaluation for each and every employee. All right, so I'm going to go back to the 5 council members. I did a little homework, didn't take much on Google. City of Miami, the largest municipality in Miami-Dade County. Guess how many members they have on their council? 5. City of Doral, 5. Coral Gables, 5. Pinecrest, 5. I did check one in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, 5. Hialeah, for some strange reason, has 7. Okay, but I don't think we want to be like Hialeah. Okay, but the reason for that is just, number one, for efficiency. Number two, having more people, having more opinion doesn't exactly make for better government, okay? Keep it 5. I think the agendas, everything could fall more in time, okay, as opposed to council meetings extending into the wee hours of the morning. Okay, so I think that should be a strong consideration for you all. As far as the strong mayor, same thing. Comes from my personal experience. 30 years working for Miami-Dade County Fire Rescue. When I first started, it was a county manager. And the first thing that I saw that I didn't like the county manager form of government was Hurricane Andrew in 1992. The mayor was nowhere to be found. Everything came from the manager and, of course, the OEM director, which eventually was disgraced and had to leave. Right? So I think that a strong mayor form of government, you have a person that is accountable directly to the voters. Can I have another 30 seconds? It's not really that big of a crowd here. Thank you. Again, directly accountable. Nothing to say about, the manager. But I personally would like to, like right now in Miami-Dade County, there is an effort to recall the mayor. Okay, so directly accountable to the voters, directly accountable to the taxpayers. All right? Yes. I'm a retired firefighter, George Eden.
Did you provide your name?
Yes.
He did. Okay.
And
Wonderful.
Gina knows him. And I live 5 blocks away from.
Okay. Thank you. Any other public comments? All right. Thank you. Thank you all for coming. Councilman, thank you both for being here today and for your comments.
Okay, Vice Chair, we do have a participant online, Mr. Abel Fernandez. Please unmute yourself. We see you. We just want to hear you. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Good evening. My name is Abel Fernandez, exempt under Chapter 119. Everyone there knows me. I want to focus briefly on Article 1 of our charter, the foundation of our home rule government. I sent you through the clerk information on Article 1 today. You should all have it. If the foundation is vague, everything built on it becomes subject to confusion, overreach, or conflict. Why Article 1 matters. Article 1 defines who we are as a town, how power is structured, and how broadly that power is interpreted. Right now, it grants very broad authority, but lacks sufficient guardrails, as we've seen, to ensure accountability, transparency, and more importantly, respect for voter authority. The key amendments that I sent you, and I'll make them quick on Article 1, clarifying separation of powers. The charter states that we have a council manager form, but doesn't clearly prevent individual council members from interfering in administration. I saw this happen several times with the previous mayor. My proposal makes it explicit. Policy is collective, administration is professional. This protects staff, residents, and the integrity of governance. Again, refer to the information I have sent to you via the clerk. Strengthening voter control over boundaries. Boundary changes already require voter approval, and that's good, but we should tighten public notice requirements so the residents are fully informed well before any vote. And the Home Rules Charter should never mean that we see surprises. Balancing broad powers with accountability. Article 1 grants the broadest powers allowed by law, but says nothing about how those powers should be exercised. Adding language about transparency and public participation doesn't weaken authority, it legitimizes it. Balanced charter interpretation. Finally, while construction favors the town, it should also respect democratic accountability. This amendment balances government authority with the rights of residents. And in closing, these are not radical changes, they're clarifications on the existing language again, that I've provided to you. They strengthen home rule, protect voters, and reduce future conflict. I respectfully ask this committee to advance these amendments for further consideration. In closing, 2 points: a strong home rule charter is not just about power. It's about clearly limiting and defining that power. And I've seen abuses over the years as someone who's attended many meetings and loopholes. I want to close that during this opportunity that we have every decade. With that said, I echo Councilmember Hertzberg. I did not know until today that you're going on an order of articles, and I submitted 2 other articles that should be in your possession. But I will now start appearing before every committee meeting to address these articles independently. I would suggest, much like an agenda is placed out, and again, I'm echoing Councilman Hertzberg, that we advertise completely how to communicate with you, what is expected from the folks at the podium, such as I am doing now, and what articles you're going to be considering. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your service. And in closing, one more item that I had sent. In the future, I hope that you look at a charter amendment that the composition of all committees that serve this town and its 33,000 residents, that they're advertised, that you allow folks to apply and submit their request to be included in a committee. I would not like to see the repeat of this, of appointing by council member who they feel without no advertising to the entire community. I think that's a disservice to us, the constituents and the voters that elect this council. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Fernandez. Our chair is here, so I will turn the gavel over to him. Welcome, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I'll start by apologizing for being late. Unfortunately, I had to stop over at the urgent care for a quick minute, but I am here. I've been listening to the comments online, and so welcome everyone this evening. Do we have, Madam Clerk, any other online?
No, I don't see any other participant.
All right. Any other
If I could, a point of order, Romero, thank you again for what you're doing. I hope you feel better. And go Canes. I know it's against your nose, but quick question. Do you, all of you, have the documents that I have sent to the clerk?
Yes, all the info. Yes, everything.
Okay.
Mr. Fernandez, I shared your email as soon as I received it, and I also printed in hard copy and placed on the dais.
Thank you. I'm going to leave you all. Thank you again for your service. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. And just for the matter of the record, there were other submissions that were submitted to the clerk that was shared. Is that correct?
Yes, from Mr. Abel Fernandez as well. He spoke about Article 1. The other ones were other articles, but they were shared with all of you via email.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move the approval of the minutes.
Sure. Give me 1 second. I just wanted just to confirm, since I'm running in late, there's no other public comment. Is that correct? All right, thank you. So we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second it.
Second is all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the minutes pass, the motion passes. All right, so we'll move forward now on the items for discussion. We'll start off with the discussion of the preamble. As we had discussed initially at our last meeting in December, is that we were going to begin going through each of the sections of our town charter. Starting with today, we're going forward with the preamble, the Citizens Bill of Rights, as well as Article 1. So we'll begin with the preamble, and I just want, as a point of making it clear for all the residents and all those that are here on the commission, is that simply because we have this discussion at this point does not mean that it cannot be reopened later on should we decide that we either hear from the public comments, because we may not be able to respond immediately to them, or feel we want to add anything at a later point in time. With that discussion, we'll begin with the preamble. I'll open the floor to any of the council members.
Thank you. Okay, just want to clarify a few things to everyone. The town charter in no way alters the law or municipal law or state law or any of that. and if I'm not mistaken, and I hope the attorney would sing into this, it's basically a contract between the elected members and appointed members and the people of Miami Lakes. Is that how you could interpret a town charter?
I would interpret a town charter as a constitution of the town.
Okay, but does it carry any weight as far as altering the laws or changing municipal laws or anything like that?
No, municipal powers are given to the town of Miami Lakes through the Florida Constitution, which granted broad home rule powers. The charter is cements kind of what those rules are within
Right.
the town and pretty much gives the framework of how the
Correct.
town is going to be governed.
I just wanted to make sure that people
And it's supported
understand
in
that we
all
can't
state
change
laws.
laws with the charter.
Correct.
You know, it's essentially the contract, if you will, between the people and the government. That's what constitutions tend to be, how it's set up.
I wouldn't call it a contract, but it's
Okay, thank you. I just wanted that, I wanted to make sure that the people understood we're not changing laws here.
Correct. Thank you. Does anyone else have any comments, discussions, proposals with regards to the preamble? All right, seeing none, we're going to go to item 7B, the discussion of Citizens Bill of Rights. As we see this, this is the largest portion of that we're going to be discussing today, or encapsulates most sections. Citizens Bill of Rights is drafted is pulled from the county Citizens Bill of Rights, which is being incorporated in most part, not in complete part, but in relevant part. And so I'll open up any discussions or any questions or proposals regarding the Citizens Bill of Rights.
Mr. Chairman, obviously, essentially the Bill of Rights, is intact. However, as I said, we have comments here that basically maybe should be at least considered for an addition to the Bill of Rights. Mr. Fernandez has kind of set forward some things that would like to be seen as more of rights, more than changing structures and so on and so forth like that. I would like, if we could, obviously, look at the Bill of Rights, but then come back to this at a later meeting so that we can, look at the wording and the information that public comments have provided us in order to go ahead and see if we should add to the Bill of Rights any of these particular things.
No, absolutely. And as I stated initially, is that, that's my intent, is that, that we have the opportunity at later times if we want to bring things up, because, we have residents that are coming and speaking before us and giving us additional information that we may not have the opportunity to really fully digest. But we will have time now, between now and the next meeting to take into consideration what Mr. Fernandez has provided us and his documents. So, I'll expect if you guys would like to have any considerations, any proposals, is to please have them prepared for us so that way we can get them. Obviously, the more in advance we can get it, going through the clerk, so she can share, so that way we can have it reviewed and so we can have a meaningful conversation during our meeting.
Of course, that's why I was hoping that public comments would give us additional things that possibly we should incorporate in the Bill of Rights as opposed to the charter structure.
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Any other discussions or proposals with regards to the Citizens Bill of Rights?
So I just wanted to touch base on a couple of things. So
Yes.
I'm looking at number 11 in budgeting, right? And it talks about how the town should give first public hearing prior to the council's first public hearing on the proposed budget. Required by state law, the town manager shall make public a budget summary setting forth the proposed cost of each individual department and reflecting, whatever else. Should we not have like a defined time? I mean, because to me, it could be like 5 minutes before the meeting, right? I see it very vague. Prior to the town council's first public hearing, that could be 5 minutes before the hearing. Should we set some sort of time frame, whether it's a week before? I mean, I don't know how you guys normally do your business, but
Yes,
Go ahead. Mr.
the advertising of items that are going to be before the council, whether they be a regular item or a budget item or setting of the millage or anything else, we have timelines that we advertise them. And I think it's at least 5 days, Gina?
7 days.
7 days. 7 days prior to the meeting where it's going to be addressed.
so based on that, should it be reflected on the charter that it will be 7 days or?
Well, I would say is if you do have a proposal to amend some of the language, you don't have to have it right now if you don't have it ready. But if that's something you'd like to consider, I'd like to see a proposal for what you would believe it should be amended. I can tell you, in my opinion, I'm not sure with the town managers, is I think from the charter perspective in here is we're looking at, generally what the charter is, in my experience, is more of the broader sense. And that might be that timing is something that the council rules decides upon on a case-by-case basis, and they can modify it. But once it's in the charter, there's very little wiggle room for the council to modify. They may want more stricter time standards, or they say, hey, look, you know what, we have a big budget year or some big issues are coming up, and gives them that flexibility. So I would ask you if you're going to come up with a proposal is to keep that in consideration. Is to the flexibility. His understanding is when we put things into the charter, the council has no wiggle room. But it's not to say that we wouldn't address it or whatnot. But that's what I would like to just think about in coming up with a proposal probably for the next meeting, unless you have something today.
No, I mean, I could make a motion, but if
Absolutely.
you'd rather wait until for the next meeting, I'm fine with that too.
It's up to you. If you want, I have the count of the commissioners are available.
My way of seeing it, if the town is already using the 7 days, as
Board member, Abad, let me just make a correction. Let me correct myself. I stated 7 days. Per special rules of order of the town council, the clerk needs to generate the agenda the Wednesday before the regular council meeting, before the meeting. So it's really technically 6 days. But we do have it in writing. It's like codified via special rules of order. Just so that I wanted to share that with you. Not a lot of people know that we have to follow those special rules of order that sometimes get amended by the board, by the council members. It is in writing.
Go ahead,
Chair.
Town Attorney.
Thank you. So a couple things on the budget. One, the budget is really, it's really geared a lot and governed by statute. Statute sets forth when the property appraiser needs to send the information to the town, when the town has to then go ahead and set the tentative millage, and then afterwards it has its budget hearings, and then afterwards it has its first and second reading of the budget and the millage. That being said, Gina's absolutely right. A lot of these notice requirements are built into special rules that the council has to self-govern themselves. And later on in the charter, you're going to see where it says that the council can create their own rules, and that's why they have the power to do so. I kind of understand when we're looking at the charter and we're looking at all these, sections and kind of the Bill of Rights. Really, what the Bill of Rights is intended to do is to protect the residents kind of from us, right? From the people who are being governed. And so you want to create these kind of broad, let's say rights, and the right to have the budget and to be able to see it, but you've got to be careful where you don't hamstring the administration and the council, and then they're forced to have to take a certain action because it's in the charter, and now they don't have that flexibility. So I kind of understand where the chair is saying that. The reason I'm also saying this is as we move forward in the charter, we've got to think broadly as to what are we looking at and what is the reason that it's placed in the charter, why it exists. And so sometimes, yes, we may want to tweak it, but we've got to be careful and not to create circumstances that are unintended. So just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you. Councilmember, anything else? No, we're now on the Citizens Bill of Rights.
I'd like to opine on that and kind of give a little bit of my perspective, right?
Sure.
So I definitely think that the town manager has and always has a version of the budget that gets released with the agenda. There's, in practice, a lot of other things end up happening. And during the budget process, one of the things that happens is, especially on the revenue side, a lot of those revenue figures fluctuate. And sometimes that process is a daily thing, right? You might get a better projection for what the revenue is going to be for this tax or that tax or whatnot. And so state law also requires that the balance that be voted on be a balanced budget, right? So every time you have a change to that revenue number, staff then has to go back and change other things. There have been numerous times where there's never been a time to my recollection that staff hasn't produced at least a version of the budget by the time that the agenda is released. But oftentimes, even between that time and the time that the budget hearing is held, there's tweaks and changes that happen. And there tends to be an updated version of the budget, which is what ends up being voted on. So I think we want to be careful that we don't hamstring, staff into the version that gets published at the agendas, what must be voted on. And in the budget process, there's a lot of notice requirements. There's a lot of timeline and calendar type requirements that have to be held. It has to be done in 2 readings. That it has to be, notice has to be put on the trim. So there's a lot that goes into it. I don't necessarily, I see the intent of doing it. I don't necessarily think that being more prescriptive here is going to lead to a more transparent budget. I think you're going to get a budget regardless. So that's just my perspective.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
so-
Yes.
Once again, and building on Tony's input here. So the object of this is so that the public has a good understanding of where the budget is so they can come and make comments on it. He says that rarely is the published budget the one that they're voting on. That's a problem for me. Because how can the public, spend the time to do it and then wait for the council meeting? And then after public comments are already made, then they can't retort to anything. So now we're dealing with a situation where the documents provided are no longer valid for the people to, under the Bill of Rights, to understand what's going on. Comments, anybody? I mean,
Mr. Chair, if I
ahead,
may,
Mr. Mayor.
and kind of going on what the former Vice Mayor Fernandez stated, the budget, it's a process, right? So it's a process that starts way early in the early to mid summer. But what they're talking about here in this item is specifically the last 2 steps in the budget, which are the 2 budget hearings, right? Those are both in September. By the time we get there, we have the budget that is approved on first reading at the first budget hearing in September is the numbers that we have. But to the Vice Mayor's point, there are sometimes revenue estimates that, because we get a lot of revenues from the state, we get revenue from the county. Sometimes in the entire process that may start in early to mid summer, by the time we get to September and we have those 2 votes, those same exact revenue estimates can change 2 to 3 times. Easy. So, but when we publish something, let's say for the first budget hearing, that is usually in the first half of September, when we publish that and it's advertised, that's the best numbers we have at that moment. Now, from first reading to second reading, it's going to change because the council is going to take action at the first budget hearing. There's going to be revenue estimates that may be modified, that may get updated, and all of those will be presented in the second budget hearing. The second budget hearing, when we publish numbers in anticipation of the second budget hearing, those are the best numbers and most accurate numbers that we have at that time. So sometimes if you do that advertising too far in advance, you're opening yourself up to more of those numbers being changed in the interim.
And the other issue is when they're up there on the dais, they publish numbers, but then they change their minds. They listen to public comments, they listen to each other because there's the sunshine law. You guys can't talk, they can't talk to each other unless they're in the sunshine. So you got to be careful when you do something like that, that you don't tie their hands to debate and make it so that they have no wiggle room or no decision. They are the policymaking body. They have to advertise, this is the budget, this is where we're at so far, but you can't limit them to have debate and change their mind. And I'm telling you, this stuff is really complicated, and it is a small town, and it is really complicated, and things are happening, and then all of a sudden we find out other things, and literally in real time, you'll see the budget change. So you have to be careful when you advertise something that you don't tie that council's hands.
Yeah, and a lot of the timelines Commissioner Abad, a lot of the timelines are dictated by state law. There's a state law that's the truth and millage law, the trim law, that is stipulated in a lot of the timelines, when you have to do this, when you have to do that, they're all stipulated. Now, we can be, we can do more than that, but a lot of the minimum timelines, and sometimes the timelines are, you have to do it between this date and that day, so many days. So it's very exact, and that's why some of these things have to be done in a certain way. So if you couple the state law, the truth and millage law, and then the council rules that we have to publish agendas 6 days before the actual meeting day, that is how we get to where our current practice.
The county, a few years back, had to redo their budget hearing, I think, because they made a mistake. And I forgot what the nature of the mistake was or whatever, but they literally had to come back and redo it all over again. And it's happened in a few other jurisdictions that we're familiar with.
Mr.
And
Chairman?
another thing,
Give me one second.
I'm so sorry,
Please.
Commissioner Bennett, but one of the things that I wanted to bring to Commissioner Abad's attention is number 12. Number 12, I think, is really important, the quarterly budget comparisons. Because one thing is the budget, but the other thing is how that budget relates to, the actual reality of the town. And this is something where maybe there's wiggle room to make it even more transparent. I don't know, but I think this is pretty neat that we actually have this, where on a quarterly basis, the town manager has to make these reports and show exactly where the town is in comparison to the budget that it adopted. So I want to bring that point across.
I think, Mr. Bennett.
Yeah,
Commissioner Bennett.
then I'm going to make a motion to amend under budgeting that the management will make every effort to have accurate information in a timely manner to allow public participation of the member of the town of Miami Lakes.
All right. Do we have a second to that motion?
Really?
Could you repeat your motion, please?
The motion is that I'm budgeting on the one that you're speaking with, that the town of Miami, the management of the town of Miami Lakes will make every effort to provide accurate information in a timely manner to allow the people of Miami Lakes to accurately assess the budget. Something along those terms. It's just basically that they will make every effort to get it here in a timely manner so that there's sufficient abilities for the public to participate in the budget process.
Is that motion succinct enough, Madam Clerk? You have that? Okay. All right. Do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second for discussion.
All right. It's been seconded for discussion, and I'll open up for discussion.
Well,
Good.
Through the chair.
Please.
Thank you. Just to bring some perspective into the matter, during the budget process, during the summer, there are a significant amount of meetings, there are workshops, and the budget is kind of like a living, breathing thing that changes all the time. So I know for the new council members, it's a bumpy ride. There really isn't ever a concrete budget except the one that gets voted on. And even that one will change month to month, depending on variations in revenues or new projects or even emergencies that come about. So I think that the language is fine, that management should make, their best effort. But it's never going to be realistically a document that's going to be concrete where the public can come and say, okay, this is going to be the budget for the entire year. It's just, it's an unrealistic expectation.
That's
you.
why I put in the language of,
Good, Commissioner.
I'm sorry, that language, their best effort in a timely manner. I mean, once again, that the best effort is all we can hope for from anybody. That's why I put it in that language. We want to make sure the public knows that the information that's being provided in public meetings is as up to date and accurate as possible so they can make those decisions.
That last sentence that you said sounds like a way more important thing that we need to make sure is in the. So I'd like to maybe revisit this and come up with something that sounds like that.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to make
Go
one
ahead.
point, please, that I think is important. And I work with different municipalities and different jurisdictions, and I got to say something about our town, which is pretty neat. We're so transparent that we actually have our checkbook online. You can see the checks as they're being made online, all of them, and any resident. And I think that that's something that shows how transparent I think our staff and government is. So just want to put that out.
All right. Thank you. Do we have any other discussion items or anyone else have for discussion? All right, so at this point, I don't know if there was there wasn't specific language that you wanted to keep in part of your motion. I
I would
know
like
it
to-
was a concept I
I'm
believe
going
you
to
were
withdraw
proposing.
my motion at this time to be revisited at the next meeting, and maybe I can narrow the language a little bit more, and that way. Mostly, I really want everything discussed among us. I know sometimes it's difficult. When I make motions for discussion, I'm hoping we'll discuss it. It may not be voted up or down, I mean, voted up, but at least it should be discussed by this commission, and that's what's important to me, that any idea presented is discussed, whether we accept it or not, subject to this commission as a whole.
All right, well, note your motion withdrawn, and I appreciate your comments, and I can guarantee you, what I've reassured, is I'm here to have these discussions. It's great discussions for us to have. Our charter is very, very important to not only us, but to our town. And we want to make sure we have a full discussion about all these items. And I look forward to seeing in the proposal if you could have that, if some type of language prepared and sent in advance, so that way we can see it in advance, and that we can have a more in-depth discussion on the actual language that you're
Yeah,
proposing.
well, it was Commissioner Abad here who brought it up. I'm just clarifying, but, perhaps he'll have something to provide also. Thank you.
Absolutely. I welcome it from anyone from the commission.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And also, anybody from this commission that has an idea, conceptual idea about a certain section or a whole article, and you want to have staff input or staff help to create a red line document that'll be something easier for you guys to assess here on the dais, we'd be more than happy to make, staff available to any of you, obviously not violating sunshine, but we'll make staff available to any of you between meetings to work on any of these, and we'll help you put that together so that you have something concrete to assess at your following meeting, at the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Manager.
just want to make a point of
Yes.
parliamentary procedure, like, if there is a motion on the floor, so it does belong to
He
the body.
withdrew his motion,
You-
and I accepted the withdrawal.
Okay, so if you all want to vote on the withdrawal, because it really does belong to the body,
Okay,
so.
even with withdrawal. So we have to vote on it, even though he's
That's fine.
withdrawn it?
That's fine. If you withdrew it, that's fine.
He withdrew, yes, he did withdraw it, and I accepted. All right, so moving on, is there any other discussions on any other proposals on the language we're in the Citizens Bill of Rights? Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to discuss with this body, number 3, public records. I know that there are there have been moments where there have been extensive public records requests, and they're costly to the town because of the staff time. And there is, I believe, a statute that allows us to charge fees but it's not written in the charter. So I would like to entertain the idea of perhaps adding some sort of language that says subject to reasonable fees, or something of to that extent, because there are residents that have been, I guess, surprised by the fact that there may be a fee, or
Yeah,
that there might be.
It's kind of like the federal law, then the state law, then the municipal, right? So the state law, as Lorenzo said earlier, is superior to our charter. So we guide ourselves when there is like an onerous request. We always guide ourselves by whatever the state law permits.
Right,
So-
so is that something that should be included in the language, or is that?
I think it's already there because
Necessary.
state law already allows for it. So I don't believe that that level of specificity is required in there. But
Yeah, and I will say is I'm very familiar with the Chapter 119 and public records requests, as as in my personal capacity. And I will tell you, yes, it does agree 100% with the town manager. It is already set forth in state law. Not only that, but there's also guidance in both statutes as well as opinions that have been issued by the state on the reasonableness and how that's calculated, and when you can and cannot be charging fees. And there's a lot of those determinations. So I know that that's already set forth in state law. And then, but it's obviously the point of it, of the Chapter 119 and charging the cost, is obviously so it doesn't become a burden on the public, which is what it really is. So they make those determinations on their basis whenever they get their records request, whether or not there's going to be an invoice prior to the production of any type of records. I don't think it necessarily needs to be in the Citizens Bill of Rights. To the extent if you want to add, as provided for in applicable law, you could add something such as that, but I think it's implied in what's in there right now.
Understood. I received a pushback as a council member when there were fees assessed So I just didn't know if it was, if it would be prudent to include some sort of language, perhaps something referring to the statute so that it's at least transparent, so that the residents understand that, yes, they are supposed to be receiving anything that they request, but it has to be reasonable in time, or they have to pay for the time that it takes to put it together.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Give me 1 second
Sure.
and I'll go back to you and just, go ahead.
So if a large public records request is made, is the party that made that request then notified upon that receipt of that request? that
Yeah,
there is
we have to
a-
give them an estimate before.
They are given.
Yeah,
a-
we give them
based
an
on-
estimate when it's a large over-the-top request, and we give them an estimate and then they have to, once they know how much is the estimate, then they give us the green light whether to
Okay,
proceed
so
or
that
not.
was my question. They have the ability then to withdraw that request.
Or modify it or whatnot, under the, yeah. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, as someone who rarely gets public records, right, Gina? The, one of the issues that, that was a hindrance on some documentation was they wanted to include attorney's fees to review public records. That the public records indeed was reviewed by an attorney and we had to pay attorney's fees. I found that unacceptable. Public records are just that, they're public records. Whether an attorney views it or not is irrelevant and shouldn't even be included. Copying costs are part of the law, are part of the law. I understand that. Obviously, you can also charge for our town clerk's time to gather the records, and I understand that. But the including of attorney's fees is onerous to anybody who wants transparency.
Sure. I'll start off and then I'll ask for the town attorney to chime in. But I know from my experience, it's the way that the statute, chapter 119, it refers to as a special service charge. It doesn't designate what that special service charge, but it can include, it's a variety of costs. It could be, if you're doing microfiches, or you're copying film, or if you're copying photographs, those are special fees with the attorneys. I do know that there are times that records are requested that need to be reviewed by an attorney as opposed to another individual, because there may be, if you have records that are maybe subject to some type of litigation privilege, as it's an ongoing type of thing, the attorneys would have to review that and have that aspect of it. And then it's the town's determination as to, hey, look, what are we going to charge as to that? And they put that into their invoice, but I'll defer over for the exact practice of the town to the town
No,
attorneys.
what you said is absolutely on point.
100%.
Chapter 119.071, I believe, is a huge august. If you read it, the exemptions and things that you have to redact is extensive, and it gets worse. I think it gets even more and more as technology advances. You have also another set of statutes that deal with anything having to do with technology infrastructure. So you have to be very, very careful what is released to the public. You have things that are exempt, you have things that are privileged, and that's why it requires the attorney to be able to review it.
Well, then
I can tell you-
can't
Give me
consider them
1
public
second.
records.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah,
finish.
I
and
can
then-
tell you in my 13 years, and Gina, if you recall different, I don't believe I've ever charged an attorney's fee for someone. But let me tell you what has happened to us. We've had firms that we litigate with in actual litigation send us public records requests on the matter that we are litigating. That has been done. And then I've got to take the time to go through all of that to take out all the privileged matters and everything else. So just as a policy, I don't think we've done it. And if I have, it's so rare that I don't remember it in 13 years or whatever it is. But do not let go of that weapon.
Yeah.
The other problem I've had is people have said, want my cell phone records. Well, that's fine, but that takes time. And that takes a lot of time because the cell phone company does not give you your name, the phone numbers of your contacts. You've got to go through your contacts and each one and figure it out. That takes time. And they've done it to all of you at one point or another, and they will. And then I've got to review it and everything else. So I agree with you that it shouldn't be used as a weapon against transparency. That's not fair. But we also need to be able to protect ourselves too. So it's a tricky issue.
Sure. I'll go ahead, Commissioner Bennett.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
essentially right. I mean, unfortunately, before our town attorney was our town attorney, public records requests were blocked. Well, let's just say they were onerous in order to get from the previous administration. sending me bills for over $1,000 for
Yeah.
public records. Now, once again, if the definition of public records isn't a public record, that's what one of the issues you got to deal with. So the answer is no, that has not happened to me recently. But I do want to note that can be used as a weapon to prevent transparency,
Yeah.
within our town. So
And
we
I-
might want to revisit that and maybe not so much as open it wide open to cause problems for our legal staff, but to basically, allow for a certain amount of leniency to get public records. As I said, so far, I have never been denied anything I've requested.
Sure. Thank you. And I did want to just comment just briefly on this topic is because while I haven't made a public records request of the town, so I'm not fully familiar with the whole process, as I have been doing public records for over 20 years. So I have extensive experience litigating many cases and have appellate opinions on this issue. So I know it very, very well. But I do want to say is that, as the town attorney had said, when they go through, whether he may or may not bill for that information, that's his choice with his practice. But I can tell you is that, when an attorney is reviewing and the town is being assessed for fees for his time in review, if he does bill the town, the town should not be burdened with having to absorb that unless it decides to. If the council wants to go ahead and say, hey, look, you know what, we're going to waive it no matter what it costs us for our attorneys, that's a choice for the town. And that's provided for in the law. It gives the flexibility to the entity to make that determination as to when they want to assess those fees, how much they're going to assess, but it can't recoup anything more than what the actual expense is going to be. It has to be reasonable in light of what the records are, the statutes, and there's clear case law. A lot of it over the years of how that goes and how that's assessed. But nonetheless, I think, if there is any other type of proposal with regards to this public records aspect of it, it's something I think should be addressed directly with the town council. If there's any challenges by anybody. But nonetheless, the Chapter 110 also provides remedies for an individual citizen that believes that they're not receiving their records requests in accordance with Chapter 119. So, is there any other discussion? Anything else from the town attorney on that, Adam?
No, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussions on this public records? Okay. All right. If there's I had two items that I just really wanted to address in the Citizens Bill of Rights. First, going over to number 7. This is just more from my reading of the information, and I wanted to get an initial clarification from the town attorney is that in number 7, talking about the no unreasonable postponements, it's not necessarily about the specifics of the actual of what's going on in that section. However, it's the references to meeting at the beginning and then changing of the language from meeting to hearing. As I understand it, when I read it, I compared it to what the county has in their template Citizens Bill of Rights. They do change from meeting to hearing. As I'm reading it, I believe that we may want to have them take out the hearings and replace it for meetings throughout. For consistency purposes, because there's a difference between a meeting and a hearing, is my understanding, but I'd like to hear from the town attorney on that.
You're correct, Mr. Chair. There's two types of let's say, items that are heard by the governing board. One of them are legislative in nature. Those are your ordinances, those are your regular resolutions. Some of them, if it's an ordinance, may require a public hearing. That means that in order to pass a legislation, there needs to be a input from the public, and so that's why it's called a public hearing. Now, there's other types of hearings that are quasi-judicial in nature, and those are completely where the council is wearing basically a judge's hat, and they're making decisions based on the weight of the evidence that's being presented to them. And those are hearings, but not all matters, not all meetings. For instance, this is a meeting, but this is not a public hearing. So I see your point. I think having as public meeting is more expansive than using the word hearing.
Okay. With that, I'm going to make a motion that in number 7, that we replace the word hearing as it appears, I believe, twice with the word meeting in light of what, the town attorney's comments. That's my motion.
And I'll second it.
There's been a second. Is open for discussion.
Maybe.
Dr. Bennett, go ahead.
Yeah. All right. So basically, it's you just want to change it from hearing to a meeting. Meaning, would it be a hearing if it's quasi-judicial and a meeting if it isn't? Is that the implication here?
Mr. Town Attorney.
So basically, Commissioner Bennett, what happens is that not all items are being heard are in the form of a hearing, but every item is in the form of a public meeting. So public meeting is a lot more expansive and encompasses everything, including hearings.
Okay, and would there be any restriction on an individual's rights by changing that language?
I think it clarifies that it covers every meeting, not just the hearings.
Yes, and I'll say that was kind of when I was reading it, it looked to me to be more of a limitation by having hearing versus meeting. Like I said, I looked at the county's template that they have on here, and they have it just as it's written here. They have the distinction between the meeting and hearing. I don't know if it was on purpose or whatnot, but that was my preference, is that it be more general, that it be meetings, and that it runs so that way it does mirror it and it's more expansive.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the Bill of Rights is intact to protect our citizens. I mean, that's the only reason I want to make sure there's no mechanical changes, essentially. It's more of a technical change, it sounds like.
Any other?
I know we're discussing this a little bit more than it probably needs to be. I just want to be clear.
Sure, not a problem.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes, I have a question, and it may open a bigger box, but it would really help me understand the process. So, assuming that we decide to go forward with these changes, what's the next step? Does this become a ballot item? Does this become only an individual ballot item to clean this up? Is it a ballot item per section? I want to kind of see what that finished product looks like, so that I kind of know how to lay out my motions as well.
Okay, well, I think in the context of this, if we can have it limited as to the pending motion, and then obviously with the broader context for general motions, if Town Attorney.
So the items that you're voting on will be brought forth for the residents to vote on. So yeah, that's something that as we move forward and as we're making these motions and we're kind of tweaking it, we'll get to the point where we'll come up with the questions that are going to be put up on the ballot. I think at this point, I think the mission of this board should be to figure out what are the things you want to fix. Let's address all of those. And then, later before we conclude as a board, we'll figure out how we're going to lay out those questions.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
And so, Mr. Town Attorney, so as I'm understanding so what we're doing now is we're from a conceptual point to as much as possible with as much specificity, we'll be saying, hey, look, these are the changes we want to move forward with. And that towards the end of our last couple of meetings is where we're going to start drafting the actual language that will be proposed and say, hey, look, this is for each item. This is what the language, and then we will once again vote as a body to make the final determination as what the language is going to be going on to the ballot, after obviously legal sufficiency as well.
That's correct.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions or discussions on the item? All right. So I'm going to move forward. I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. All right. Second that I have is as to, this will be into letter B, which is on my page 9. I'm not sure of the other pages, but it's letter B. Oh, sorry, not letter B. It is letter C, the remedies for violations section. In that section, I'd like to move to change the word article that's found in 2 sections at the beginning and at the end with a Bill of Rights. The reasoning being is that this is not an article. The Citizens Bill of Rights is not designated as an article, and rather it is the Bill of Rights. And so I think it correctly reflects what this statement states, which is in that language is any suit by a citizen alleging a violation of this Bill of Rights filed in Miami-Dade County Circuit Court, et cetera. And I think it best designates it because this is not an article within our charter the way it's written. So that's my motion, is to replace the word article for the phrase Bill of Rights.
Second.
There's a second. I'll open it for discussion. Seeing no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that passes. I have nothing else on the Citizens Bill of Rights. Any last discussion items from anyone else on Citizens Bill of Rights? All right, we're going to go move forward with Section 7C, the discussion of Article 1, the corporate existence, form of government, boundary, and powers. I'll open it up for any discussion items or any motions or any proposals. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so I'd like to, let's discuss if we can on article on the, excuse me, section 1.2, form of government, just to make sure. So currently, we have what's known as a council manager form of government in which a council is elected. They then vet and appoint a town manager. We just heard some comments that they want to go ahead and possibly go to a strong mayor form of government, which I'm assuming would take on the role of the manager. I'm not quite sure what they're going to define as strong mayor, but I'm assuming that that's basic it, that the mayor would have the power to hire and fire. Interesting, we had this come up back in 2008 and 2010. It was voted down, obviously. That's why we didn't even change the form of government. I'd like to go ahead and discuss a little something different, though. Right now, as of 2000, we do have what's called the council manager form of government. The manager is appointed position by the town council, and they vet him and determine, his qualifications, and that he would become a part of the town council, excuse me. So the elected town council appoints the manager with a majority vote. Now, when Mr. Attorney, stop me if I'm wrong in anything. If basically of the 7 members, if 4 members want the town manager, the manager gets the position. It's a majority vote. So he's appointed by 4 members. I hope I'm correct.
That's correct.
Okay. So historically, the manager does the day-to-day operation. So most of our elected officials are busy taking along their lives, and they're doing this more of a voluntary basis, and they want the manager to go ahead and take care of the nitty-gritty, the day-to-day things of running the town. That's basically how that was set up originally in 2000. All right. One of the things that the town manager does is that he goes ahead and he basically hires and fires employees, and he goes ahead and directs employees, and so on and so forth. Okay. So in as long as the 4 members of the town council are satisfied with the manager's duties, he keeps his job. It makes no sense. Obviously, he has a contract also, which, has provisions in it if he's let go or capped and all that. So now, assuming no malfeasance or anything like that. Okay. So now I'm going to make kind of throw out an idea for discussion. I'm hoping that we would morph the town manager's position from the manager to more of a controller or comptroller. And the only difference would be is the manager would be directly elected to that position. It wouldn't be just 4 members of the council doing it, but the people in general doing it. And it's not as radical as it sounds. It's not. The clerk of the courts is elected, the property appraiser is elected, the tax collector is elected, and most recently, our sheriff, because Lynn met her, Rosie Cordero Stutz, was elected. So these are very important positions. They require qualifications and so on and so forth. So by doing that, it allows for the town manager to be removed from the politics of the town, because he no longer becomes, I won't say the word duty bound, that's not right, influenced by a majority of the town council so much as now by the people of Miami Lakes, the general electorate. Now, once again, at first I was a little hesitant to bring this up, but all of a sudden I heard about strong mayor, and I feel relieved because my proposal is a little bit more easier, more subtle to the change of the town. It doesn't require a radical change. All it requires is a change basically to make an elected position. And of course, the town manager or comptroller, or whatever it be, would have the same, privileges, contracts, and so on and so forth. The town would decide if it's a 2-year or 4-year term. They'll set contract limit. They'll do all of that. But the position would be an elected position. One of the problems with strong mayors is you have to have a mayor that is elected and qualified to run the town. That's a tall order. There aren't too many of those available as far as I've seen. On the other hand, the mayor having a highly qualified elected town manager would now remove the politics from his duties because his responsibility isn't to 4 members of the town council, it becomes to the people of Miami Lakes. It's not a radical idea, but it would help removing any, I'm going to use the word misconceptions that may have occurred in the past. In 2016, when I was the chair, we were reeling from a mayor that was arrested by the FBI. He was later acquitted, for the record, but he was arrested. And we, at that time, were trying to deal with, how can we amend the charter to try and have a more, safeguards to allow this. We did the best we could, but once again, we're still limited by the law. So what I was hoping we could do is the idea of bringing about a slight change to our form of government by just allowing the manager position to be an elected position. I'd like to throw that out there for discussion. I have no motion at this time because I'd really like to hear what this commission has to say.
So I'll start off. I'd like to ask you is what form of government do you propose that to be?
Well, it would be,
what would be a title?
It would be a council controller, where the controller is an elected person, for it, but it's still the council would still direct that controller,
Okay.
with what
So
they
council
want.
controller and Mr. Town Attorney, would that be the
the
form of government?
controller's job would not be in any way subject to a majority vote of.
No, I understand. I was just asking for the form, how you would title it, how we would be.
I guess we would have
I
to
know
use
we're
a
discussing it. I know you're not
council
proposing.
controller, if you will. They used to use terms like comptroller in like cities like Chicago and New York and all
Okay.
that. I don't know if that language we can work out, but essentially the manager would be the same, almost the same total duties, except it's an elected position.
Okay. Mr. Town Attorney, do you have any, I know it just was proposed now. I don't know if you have any thoughts on what that form of government, if there's an actual title to that form of government.
So 2 thoughts. First, I've never really heard of that form of government, not at least in South Florida. I don't know of any single municipality that has a form of government that you're suggesting. Most form of governments are council manager or there's a strong mayor. The attributes that you're talking, that I'm hearing you mention about this controller are pretty much what a strong mayor is. There's also a quasi kind of strong mayor where they have some attributes of a strong mayor, but not all of them, and they are then not part of the elected body. The difference between, an example of that would be like the city of Miami. In the city of Miami, city of Hialeah, which is strong, it's called an executive mayor, right? Form of government. So you've got, and I'm thinking now because I'm listening to the question and I'm thinking it through, is you have council manager form of government, council mayor manager form of governments where the mayor maybe has a little bit more power. You have executive mayor form of government, and you have the strong mayor. In the strong mayor and in the executive, one of the key attributes is that the mayor himself is not part of the legislative body. They are outside. They are acting essentially as a manager. They have the role of being basically the head of government for purposes of ceremony. So just like the mayor here is the head of government for ceremony, but then they have the attributes of the manager as well. I assume, and I'm thinking out loud, that you could have, I guess, someone who is the head of government and then kind of the mayor, a vice mayor, another role that, but I'm not sure how that would really work or really make sense. The main focus here is that once you, with strong mayor forms of government, is that person is not necessarily, how can I say, beholden to the commissioner or the council. They are separate. They are just there to be the head of government and to run the day-to-day operations. And in most strong mayors form of governments, the mayor can even talk to the council members. There's no breach of sunshine for them to do so because, again, they don't vote on any item. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what you're describing, obviously, are certain governments that were set up. This one would be very similar. As I said, it's just like, for example, the property appraiser is an elected position. I mean, you could appoint a property appraiser. The mayor could do that if she chose to. They decided to make it an elected position. I'm sure there was reasoning as to why they decided to make it, the tax collector, the supervisor of elections, all of these as elected positions versus appointed positions. I'm guessing, and once again, I don't know the intent of why they did it that way, like the supervisor of elections, well, you didn't want somebody supervisor elections to have any type of party affiliation in any of the elections. So what I'm saying is for our manager, I would like to see that position basically, let him run for that position. Now, would it be a strong mayor, but without being an actual mayor? We would have to discuss that. That's something that would be, that this commission should discuss. What I really want of this is to make sure that our manager is under no political pressure. And I have to really stress this because there was an incident, and we all know about it, in which, he was probably, we don't know the circumstances. I have the news articles with me. I'll be placing them in the public record. They'll be fine. But what I really want to understand is I want to make sure that he is not pressured to do anything that would be in non-compliance with the laws or the department heads. It's very important, especially, say, our building department with construction standards, that, those standards are met. And I didn't want any type of pressure from anybody to the manager to make a department head feel like they're under pressure to change something they don't want to do. So by making the town manager beholden to the entire, body of Miami Lakes, it eliminates that. In other words, they're elected 4-year term, 2-year term, whatever the council wants to do. And at which point there would be a contract that would be written and it would all be determined. And then that person will decide, do they want to run for this office? In other words, who wants to run for a property appraiser? Obviously somebody who's qualified, but he decides, he looks, oh, this is a voluntary thing. I'm not going to do this, or there's a salary involved, and so on and so forth.
So Commissioner Bennett, I think, from what I'm understanding from hearing from, the town attorney, it's what you're explaining is kind of more of the strong mayor aspect of it, because that is already an elected official. If that's what you're proposing, I think we would go down that route. In my personal opinion, I think, just because a person's elected doesn't pull the politics out of anything. I think it actually makes it more of politics, because now you're beholden, that individual has to now respond to everybody in the community and in the electoral process. And, and just again, just as comments is, there is issues with anybody feeling that a town manager is being pressured to do something. I don't believe that any town manager anywhere is going to do anything that's illegal, knowingly do anything legal. There's processes in Inspector General's offices. There's, the state attorney's office. There's public corruption units that they look into those aspects of it. And I don't believe that any town manager would ever be pressured to do anything illegal or to actually do something. They may be pressured. That's a different story. But to actually follow through with it, it'd be a different story. But nonetheless, I think is important to just, what I was referring to initially is that it sounds more of a strong mayor. I think there's already a process for it. If that's what you're going to propose, and I'm saying you don't have to do it right now, but we can think about it. Obviously we had comments that have been received as well, and I want to review that from or the citizens that submitted those requests and those discussions about changing our form of government. So I think that'll be very helpful for us. I don't think, and it didn't sound like you had anything that you were proposing for today, but I know that you wanted to discuss that.
No, I just wanted this up for discussion. It was something, once again, we're trying as a commission, trying to solve problems. That's what this is all about, that we can set up the rules, and I want this out there because I want to try and prevent a problem. That every time this town has a problem, it's millions of dollars, of taxpayer money. And it's something that if we can head that off at the pass, so to speak, we can go ahead and, basically prevent a problem before it happens.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Fernandez.
And I think Councilman Hertzberg hit it right on the head. I think that issue is such a big issue that we should probably tackle, in a much more noticed fashion, focused in on that issue. I think that's an issue that we can probably discuss for 3 or 4 hours on its own, and maybe still not feel satiated about. So that would be my preference, to tackle that. I'm very interested to know more about this hybrid system, but whether it be that, and look, I can tell you, I'll offer a little bit of perspective now. I think one of the more frustrating parts of the system that we have now is the way that it works. To your point, you have 4 council members that can hire, fire a manager, right? I had the distinction of serving with a great manager a great council, a great mayor. Everything was fantastic. Kumbaya. That doesn't always happen. In fact, generally it doesn't. So one of the complicated things is the only thing, or at least it feels like the only thing that the council can do is hire or fire the manager. Really, where the problem is that there isn't more granular ways of making sure that, and of keeping the manager accountable and making sure that the manager is in line with the direction that the council is giving him. I think that to me as an elected official was the bigger rub, seeing that person elected by a majority of the people. I mean, if you got to be beholden to someone, if we got to choose who you're going to be beholden to, I can go to sleep at night knowing that it's the people, right? That's the one that I'm most comfortable. That's the box that I'm most comfortable choosing. But I think it's a very long and intricate conversation that I'd be more than happy to have with all of you guys later.
Thank you, Commissioner Fernandez. So I think at this point is what we'll go ahead and do is if in the event that you want to have that more discussion, please make sure to share that over to the clerk so that way we can have that discussed and add it to a future agenda item. I'm not, I definitely want to have the conversation if that's what this body wants to have, and if we hear from the residents and they have some type of proposal. So we'll move on to any other proposals with regards to the section Article 1 or Article 1. All right. If not hearing from anyone else, I have one item that I did want to propose. It says to section 1.3, the corporate boundaries section. Is my understanding is that figure 1, the town map, is obviously it's much older, and our town has changed, not necessarily as to the boundaries, but the actual the streets that have been added. There's new developments out on the west side, including some new ones. And I wanted to ask from the town staff, the town attorney, or even the town manager, is there an updated map of the town of Miami Lakes that we could replace this figure 1?
Yeah, it doesn't really change the boundaries, the perimeters, right?
The
It's just,
street
it
and
just
whatever.
may be a better picture of more updated development.
Because I know there's new communities
Yes.
on the west side that I think we should be reflecting in it.
Yes, obviously it's dynamic and every day it changes, but we do have one, and we have large ones like that one up there. We had those done 2 or 3 years ago, and it already shows, I think that one hopefully does, shows the development of Satori and some of the more recent developments.
Absolutely. So
And-
I'll go ahead and I'm going to make a motion to.
That's the old one.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I'll go ahead and I'm going to make a motion to replace figure 1 in section 1.3 of the town map with the most updated at the time when we go ahead and we move forward, in case there's been more changes by the time we get down later this year. So that's going to be my motion. Is there a second?
I'd like to second for discussion, and I do have a
Second,
question.
go right ahead.
Yes, so I would also like clarification from the town attorney if updating that map, even if it doesn't include changing the town boundaries, if that constitutes really a charter change, or if that map can be updated ministerially.
I'll get back to you on that. Because
Thank you, sir.
everything that's in the charter that's material that you want to change needs to go back to the people. This is kind of updating, but let me double check that for you.
Okay, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because the section of the charter that they're talking about here, it talks about the boundaries. So it's basically defining what the outline, right? What's inside is probably irrelevant to the article or the section of this article in the charter. It's basically only defining what the perimeter is around the outside edges of the town, and that is unchanged. So an exhibit that shows more development. The only really thing, this really doesn't have a lot of development other than the actual streets. There are streets now, like 87th Avenue goes all the way through. You have the streets within Satori. So there are some updates that we can put in here. But it wouldn't be like a picture like that, because then that is too dynamic. I mean, this would be just streets.
Yeah, streets in here, because obviously we have the new Palma del Lago, that's development that's being going in there. I believe
Yeah.
there's streets that have been added as
Yep.
well, and anything else that may be done. That was the purpose of when I looked at it, and as I believe that, that while it is, I still think it's substantive, a change. I don't think ministerially. I'm going to defer to the town attorney, and I know he's going to get back to us on that. So what I'd like to do is move forward with the motion that's still pending right now, is just to have it replaced. I don't think it change, if we need to change it later on, if he says, hey, look, we can change it ministerially. I'd like to have also, if you could give us an opinion for the next meeting, is if there's any other non-substantive changes that can just be done normally to the charter. I'm not sure one way or the other, but if you could give us that opinion as to whether that's required to go before the members, such as if we needed to change, if there's if there's commas or there's periods that shouldn't be, or any of those types of like more grammatical type of things that don't change it substantively, if you could let us know about that aspect of it. Is there any other discussion as to
Yeah.
the changing of the map?
Yeah, I mean, I
Commissioner-
just want to
Go ahead, Commissioner.
be clear on that. So I would be concerned that if we have to send a map to the voters, it would cause great confusion, right? Are we changing boundaries? I mean, we know our intent here. Doesn't mean that we're gonna translate that to the voter, right?
Yeah.
So I would prefer to hear the town attorneys before actually voting, for him, give him a chance to do his research, whatever. If it's something we can just change, I'm fine with that. If it's something we have to put in front of the voters, that's something that we really need to think about.
Sure. And I'll just quickly respond to that, because I think I understand that, and it's a great point. And I think it's what it would be responsible for our purposes is when we draft the language, is just make it explicitly clear. It doesn't change the boundaries. It clarifies to reflect the current map and the street locations. So go ahead, Commissioner Bennett.
No, yeah, I mean, this did come up because the town was thinking in 2008 to annex the land west of the town. That we were changing our boundaries. It didn't pass or anything, but there was discussion about that. And we did discuss about the boundary map. The same thing that our attorney said, the boundaries are still fixed. But as far as the infill is, yeah, it is dynamic. If you want to update that to reflect what we currently look like, I don't have a problem with that. It's just, since our boundaries aren't changing, they have to understand that we're not changing boundaries. That's why, we don't know if it's actually a commission question, which is what our attorney's going to do, or just basically just updating the map,
Sure.
because the boundaries are not changing.
Yeah. So I think we'll have that answer, but I'd like to move forward with the motion just to have it replaced, subject to obviously hearing from our town attorney as to whether or not it's ministerial and it doesn't need to be, and we can withdraw it at the next meeting. So any other comments, discussions? All right. So I'm going to call all in favor.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes. All right. Any other items that any would like to discuss with regards to Article 1, corporate existence? Any other proposals? All right, seeing none, we're going to be finishing, we'll finish with 7C. Now we'll move over to 7D. This is an item, Commissioner Bennett, you've asked for us to discuss this transparency. So
Thank you.
yours.
Just two things. One, on the next agenda, we should have a section old businesses, since if we're going to return to any of these things that we discussed today. So there should be a section old business, in which case any of the commissioners may, through Gina, propose something that to be an old business. That way we can approach it. Transparency, once again, I want the commission, and of course, I want our town to be very transparent with the people that elect the town. The only thing, and I need our town attorney to help us out here, because I have in your package, you have the Town of Miami Lakes ex parte communication disclosure form. I did a quick modification of it, just as commission member instead of council member. But I want to know if the actual resolution in 1-20 still applies to this body. Because once again, I know can we consider quasi judicial? Mr. Attorney? Oh,
You are definitely not quasi judicial.
you're not. Okay,
No.
that's fine.
So,
go ahead,
yeah,
please.
Mr. Town Attorney, go ahead.
no, do
you have any other comments? So-
No, as a quick question to the attorney, I just wanted to make sure. So what I'm trying to say is, we just want to have a disclosure form. So if there's any ex parte communication by anybody, just disclosing it. I know we are very honorable men and women, and I know that they'll understand. We don't want what happened last time. It looked like backdoor communications, between either council members that's going to vote on it and the commission or whatever it was. And we just wanted to have it somehow disclosed to the public as a part of the public records. And I don't know if the language that's a part of the this official form is accurate for what we're trying to achieve or if it is even valid at all.
Mr. Tubman.
So this form is specific to quasi judicial matters. Section 286.0115 is with regards to access to local public officials when they're dealing with a quasi judicial matter. What's a quasi judicial matter? An applicant from a developer is asking for a new, a site plan approval, a rezoning. They want to construct something, and so they're coming before the actual board to decide whether they have sufficient whether they have sufficient rights, whether that complies with the ordinances of the city, whether that complies with the comp plan of the city, whether it complies to a bunch of different things, right? And so they're bringing that evidence. So when you have private monies that are coming into a city, when you have the board acting in judiciary capacity, when these are matters that are open to the public and you're taking public, you want to make sure that that system is preserved as much as possible. So it's very important that if there's any ex parte communication, in other words, if anybody's being influenced by outside monies, by lobbyists, by someone else to push forward the actual development, you want to put it on the record. And so that's what 286.00115 stands for. You are not acting in that capacity. You are acting in a, I would almost say kind of a legislative capacity, but kind of not. You're very unique. Why? Because all of your actions are extremely important because they're going to be memorialized in these questions that are going to be put forth to the people. And at the end of the day, it's going to be the people who are going to vote on it, not you as a body. I would, and kind of hear me on this, I would think that it's better, Doc Bennett, that you have as much communication as you want from the council members, from the public, from everybody and anybody, to kind of, help you formulate what are those ideas that you want to put on paper, because at the end, they're going to go back to the people. The people are going to vote for it anyways. It's not really going to be you as a body. You're just coming here to figure out how you can make this document, this charter, a better document. So I don't think it's a good idea to do that for here. I mean, but that's a policy decision. You guys decide that. So I'm overstepping my bounds, my group. So I apologize for that.
You're not overstepping your bounds. Go ahead.
But as far as the law that's cited here and the resolution, this is very specific to quasi judicial, and this is not quasi judicial.
Thank you. And just as a point of clarification, it is correct that the sunshine only requires us we can't have conversations amongst ourselves, but we can have them with town council members. We
Yes.
can't have them with members of the public and with staff.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just amongst each other where we can't have any discussions concerning our role here as commissioners.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is.
All right, thank you. Dr.
Thank-
Bennett, do you have anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. That is exactly the clarification I was looking for. Because, there was, at least on my part, some confusion of exactly who we should be able to speak to. As a matter of fact, I did not accept communications from a council member because I wasn't sure. And that's why I brought this before me, because this is the ex parte communication that you use for quasi judicial. Now I understand our role is with Sunshine. See, this is why I brought this, because there was questions about this in 2016, what we could talk to who with.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you. And I would remind the commissioners, and obviously, if the town attorney also has otherwise, is if you guys ever have any of those questions, would be to direct it over to the town attorney. You can't send him an email, give him a call, ask him whether or not it's appropriate to have this conversation, and he'll give you that pretty quick answer one way or the other, because we do not want to have any violations unnecessarily. Thankfully, so as we've discussed here, it seems to be pretty broad, and it's just amongst each other that we can't speak to each other. I know some of you guys may like that fact that we don't have to talk to each other, but outside of this room. But I'm just. But is there anything else on this item that you'd like to have discussed?
no, I just wanted to get this clarified. That's why I wanted this brought before the commission in general. It just was something that was bothering me, and I wanted to make sure that we're in compliance. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Seeing there's no items, I wasn't here for it, but was there any additions to our agenda? All right, seeing there's being none, it's just a reminder. Town Clerk-
What items are you going to discuss next month? Maybe it's something
Yes.
that you guys.
Yes, and yeah, for the charters. So the next, we obviously have the Article 2. That one is going to be a larger section that covers several pages. I don't know if we want to do 2 and 3, or if we want to just stick to 2.
My preference would be just two.
I would prefer to just get through two. You can see what the preamble in the first article took
Absolutely.
and
All right.
with the discussion we had, and that's good. That's a good thing. And for all you Hurricanes fans, I'm sorry.
So I don't think we need to take a vote necessarily on it because it's just a set, what we're anticipating. We'll set that on the agenda. We'll be discussing Article 2 and obviously any of the discussions. If anybody wants to bring up any of the issues that we discussed today with regards to the preamble of the Citizens Bill of Rights, as well as hearing from the town attorney as to the item that he was going to clarify for us.
So just to clarify though,
Sure.
because the issue of the town manager role came up, is that something we're gonna do there, or we're gonna wait until 3.1, it says town manager?
Well, it depends on how it's going to be proposed, because if we're changing the form of government, then it would be addressed as as an item within Article 1. Otherwise, if we're going to be more specifically on the role, not necessarily changing our form of government, that would be addressed in Article 2. But, obviously it's, when you guys take a look at it, review it, as I had said the last time, is please take a look at it. And if you have proposals, if written proposals of exact language that you would like to have changed, it would be great. And so we can have them in advance. And so that way we can vote on the exact language moving
So
forward.
for clarification for the residents who talked about, wanting something more concrete, right, on public comments, can we say that we're gonna do 1.4, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, and 2.7, all
The entire Article 2.
in 1.4?
Yes. And as again, and I don't want to beat a dead horse on it, but it's, I'm not closing it off after next meeting that we only talk about Article 2. This is going to be a living, breathing, but I want to have our focus to be on Article 2 for next, in addition to whatever these other additional items that we're going to be addressing that we've discussed today, and anything else that you guys, based on any input. But nonetheless, is, for the matter of the town residents, is I do encourage you guys, everyone in the town, to please just send your information. It doesn't have to be as to Article 2, so that way we can start thinking about it, even if it's something much later on, is just give it to us, so that way we as commissioners can start taking a look at it. And if you have proposals, please send it over to us through the town clerk, so we can start taking a look at it and we can have very thorough and great conversations. So hearing nothing further.
One more. Just
Very
one last
briefly.
thing.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that we add that section of old business, that we can do this at this time. Now I can formulate
Yeah, that's fine. We
more
just didn't have
clearly
business to
and
bring
use
into
our
this.
town attorney, if I may, declare and try and put in language that is something that we can all understand. I just want to make sure that we do have that ability to come back to as old business, okay?
Sure, absolutely. Make sure that
Thank
that
you.
gets added. We just didn't have any old business to be able to address today. So, sure, Commissioner Fernandez, do you want to say anything or no?
I was gonna make a motion to adjourn, but
And I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, saying none. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you. What was the date? January 22nd. Thank you.